Bridgeport by the sea, that's where I'll always want to be. Where the great ships go sailing by, where there's always a smiling sky. Bridgeport by the sea is home, sweet home to me.
Hi, I'm Dolly Curtis, and I'm at the Bridgeport Public Library on Broad Street in Bridgeport, and I'm upstairs in the Historic Collections, which is a special, special place. And with me is Mary Witkowski. It's a friend of mine and a friend of many people's from many, many years, and she is the head of this whole wonderful treasure, the Bridgeport Historic Collections. And Mary, you're a treasure yourself.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you to say that. I've been here for 14 years now, which is hard to believe. I came from Michigan originally.
How did you come to Bridgeport from Michigan?
I actually came for this position. I was the assistant curator here in the collection, and I took over as the department head about a year later. And I've been here ever since. I just got fascinated with the history of Bridgeport.
Now, when they need to know anything about Bridgeport, like on the radio, the bathhouse burned down, they go, Mary, everybody's calling you up on the radio.
Everything that happens, it's funny how many things that happen in Bridgeport that eventually end up here. Because if somebody's going to put up a new building or something and they have to do some kind of a site analysis, they come in here to use our maps and things to see what was there before, to go through the city directories, to look up old buildings that were there. In any of the development along the harbor, we've had people in here asking for photographs of what it looked like, buildings that were there, historical sections that they have to be concerned about. When there was a big, there was an upheaval about some of the buildings they were going to tear downtown in Bridgeport. People were coming in here a lot to do research. We've had, for the last probably 5 or 6 years, we've had a lot of people come in and do their genealogy in terms of Indian research. They American Indian, Native American research, because that's something that if they can show lineage in that, they were getting involved with some of the casinos and getting
big. It's a very big issue.
So we had for a big surge at one point of people in here doing their Native American research.
So do you know a lot of people then, and when you go out around the area, do you see people that have been in, because you say a lot of people end up
Right.
here.
Well, it's funny, eventually almost every single person, that if you see anything, project or even some kind of event or something, if there was somebody who gets killed, they're coming in here and they're looking up a picture in the old high school yearbook to see what they look like when they were in high school. So we have every aspect of research here, from genealogy to just more recent history. It's amazing how history sort of does end up being used in any kind of daily life.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about it. I thought people that are doing a Broadway play on Barnum, or if they're doing a movie on Barnum, of course they're going to be here and at the museum.
We do a lot of Barnum. I mean, we've actually had, we've had so many documentaries on Barnum, I can't even tell you at this point, because we've had A&E here, we've had Discovery Museum, we've had the History Channel, we've done 2, I think, for A&E at this point.
So you're an old hat at this then.
So it's just, after a while, I'm like, okay, no more. But we've also had, we were just involved about 2 years ago in, Bo Bridges was in a docudrama of Barnum, and he came in here because he actually wanted to go through the Barnum collection and really get an idea of what Barnum was like before he was, to get the persona of Barnum, and sat for actually like an hour with me, said, I want to pick your brain, and just sort of asked me a lot of questions about what Barnum was like, and talk about his voice, and what I thought his mannerisms would have been like, and it was fun, and it's actually kind of neat to work on a project like that.
So celebrities have come up here. So do you know a lot about Barnum then yourself by now?
Well, I know tremendous about Barnum because this is sort of, we do have the collection here. It's one of the largest P.T. Barnum collections in the country.
And circus, too, because you have a lot of circus
We've
posters.
collected things over the years. We have a lot of circus posters, anything to do with any of Barnum's friends, meaning Tom Thumb, Lavinia Warren, you name it. Anything that had to do, any of the
with their families, too, because they lived here. All the sideshow people.
Right. The Winter Quarters was here in Bridgeport, so if you even go through the city directories, you can kind of see that during the winter, a lot of the people that actually worked for the circus lived right in the vicinity around the winter quarters. And so you actually see the names of like Mabel Stark, who was one of the lion tamers, and people like that who actually lived in the area. So it's really interesting.
So the rich history here in Bridgeport, from the circus.
We've had, probably the other famous person we had in was, Bill Paxton was in here about 2 years ago. He was researching a murder that happened in Bridgeport of a young woman around the turn of the century. He got interested in maybe doing a film about it, so I don't know if that's still underway, but he was here for 2 days. He's the guy that was in Twister. So that was kind of funny. We really had like a diversity of reasons for using the collection, you know. It's not just Barnum.
So is this whole room the collection? Is this what?
No. The collection, actually, this room is the research room, which is basically where we have to go out in the stacks and get a lot of the materials that we have.
Oh, I see.
So the stacks are on one level here, and the entire upstairs of the building is a stack level that we have. One of the things that happened a few years ago is we had a labor history project in the city, and so part of the thing is that Bridgeport is a real 20th century town in terms of, you know, the big immigrant population coming into Bridgeport and that. So we started collecting a lot of the companies and things that made Bridgeport, you know, well known, like Bridgeport Brass, Bassick, Locomobile. We have a huge Locomobile collection, which was a car that was made in Bridgeport.
Sewing machine?
We have any industry that was in Bridgeport, we have some information on. And we also have newspaper clippings on. These are the, just to show you, give you an idea, we have folders like this of newspaper clippings, and they pretty much look like this. They're things that were clipped by the librarians for many, many, many years on every aspect of Bridgeport history. So if you're even doing a biography of someone that you know grew up in the Fairfield County area or lived in the Fairfield County area for a certain point or time, we probably have a folder on them.
So not just Bridgeport City?
Not just Bridgeport. We actually were doing a lot of collections on Fairfield County too at certain points. Of particulars are biographies of people, just newspaper clipping biographies.
So is it librarians that have been clipping newspapers for years?
Probably. We're not so much anymore because we just really, because a lot of things are on microfilm now and you can get it off the web. But back the turn of the century till, you know, just about really, we still do some clipping, but mostly just Bridgeport now because it's just too expansive to clip everything, but they were just clipping everything. Plus they had programs like the WPA, I think at one point, was a program to work here in the library, so they did a lot of little different projects, and one of them was doing newspaper clippings and things like that.
No, I realize that people are always referring to clippings, but I didn't realize the librarians are actually cutting it every day or sometimes a week. And
it's just one little, one of library assistants, it's a job that they do.
Or volunteers come in and help with the library.
We have a couple of volunteers that have worked for us over the years. One particular who's very interested in Locomobile collection, so he's helped me to process that, to put the papers in some kind of order. I still go out, I'm still collecting, if there's anybody out in the community.
Tell people about that, about the photographs?
Right, photographs, well, not just photographs. We collect anything to do with local businesses. We collect any kind of, even if it's an old menu from the Barnum Hotel or something, things like that we have in our vertical file. Old manuscript letters, any kind of letters from like World War I or II.
You mean personal letters from families?
Well, some of those things, if they're willing to give them up. A lot of people don't want their personal letters out there, but if they're letters...
But you mean soldiers from home, back home?
Letters from soldiers in World War I or II. We don't really have that many of those, so those would be something that I find, that would be helpful, just showing what was the history of the area and when we do have scholars coming in and just regular researchers wanting to do a little genealogy.
I know you wanted those photographs from Biddy Josephson's Bag campus that time that I knew about.
Right. There was the Josephson Bag and the company, it's now closed.
Actually, it's just
they moved.
Purchased. It's still going.
Right, it's still going, but they've moved. But they used to be on the south end of Bridgeport. And Biddy, she had been working there since, I think, the 20s. It was her family-owned company.
Right,
and,
she was 85 when she
did give me me some photographs from the collection, and they're great. There's like a woman who worked for this company since the 1920s. It's very unusual,
I know,
really.
55 years, I think.
Yeah.
So Mary's saying that she's looking for photographs from anything in the century, 20th century, on Bridgeport history, Bridgeport manufacturing, letters.
Yeah, the other thing that we've been doing is, and we're going to continue doing that, is, and if anybody has any names of people to interview, we started an oral history project about a year or 2 years ago for a project that we were doing called Bridgeport Working, Voices of the 20th Century, because one of the main reasons that people came to the city was for work. That's why I'm here,
That's why
actually.
you came.
And so, what we want, the intent was to interview for every decade in the 20th century to show how jobs changed in the city over 100 years.
It's on the website, isn't it? I
It's
saw
on a
you working
website.
on it.
It's all complete. If anybody wants to look at it, it's Bridgeport History, no space, .org.
And you won an award. I remember when you were doing it, when you were putting it together, and they had a grant, and it was a lot of
We've
work.
gotten quite a few awards for it
Really?
now. We got the Wilbur Cross Award, which is the big award given by the Humanities Council in the state of Connecticut. We also got our American Association of State and Local History Award for the state of Connecticut, which was a national award. And we've gotten a couple of smaller awards. I think we just won one from the Connecticut Library Association for the website.
I think you were way ahead of the time on that.
Yeah, when we did the website, everybody looked at me and said, no, I don't know how you're going to do this, because what the idea was is to do an actual exhibit rather than to show the things, just an exhibit that goes up and then comes down, to have something that would be not only an exhibit, but something that people could continue to use.
So in this website that you did has audio interviews with people who work
What's
here.
on there are the oral histories that we did. You can actually listen to the voices of the people that we interviewed. There's also photographs of them, and also the transcript, the oral history transcript, just written oral history of everything that they talked about. The voices is only like a little bit, but we interviewed for that. We're still interviewing for that project, but
Still ongoing? That website's still being added to?
we will be continuing to add to it this summer. But one of the things that we're doing is doing the oral histories, continuing just as a separate project. Maybe not putting them on the website, but having that.
Sure, having the
component,
record of the
Right, and
recordings.
so if there's anybody out there that, that you think that your grandfather had a terrific, and we're not just doing executives, we're doing people who actually worked on the line, who were members of unions. One of the people we interviewed was Jo Willard, who was a woman who in the late 1940s was head of the union at GE, who actually went in front of the Un-American Activities Committee in New Haven, was brought in because they said that she was a communist, which actually she was, but so it's just sort of there's so many interesting interviews on that site right
Are
now.
you also looking for interviews, though, with people whose parents are butchers? One of my friend's father was a
It
butcher,
doesn't-
crown
No, all
butcher.
that, sure, because that's all, it's any aspect of work. And we're even trying to do some of the people that were later, that were immigrants, maybe even from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and to see, how difficult it was then, because work was so plentiful in the beginning of the 20th century. By the end of the 20th century, a lot of these companies closed down, so...
Right, too expensive to be
Right.
here. They went south or...
Yeah, so we just...
Okay, so you're looking for people to come forward who want to
Sure,
share their...
yeah.
And they're so proud. I mean,
Right, mostly, but we're looking for Bridgeport people.
Bridgeport
for this
people, no,
project.
I know,
People
but-
that actually worked in the city of Bridgeport.
or their parents did, or their parents are still alive and
Right.
that generation.
Right.
Maybe some of the younger people will hear me and get
Right,
their parents
right.
in here.
Yeah, and maybe we
Call.
could put the phone number at the end or something.
Okay, and
so they
call
could
you.
call, sure.
Now, tell people a little bit about this Monday night meeting that happens at the North Branch Library for the
Well,
organization.
that's kind of a separate hat that I wear. We don't have a historical society, so to speak. This place right here is where you can do Bridgeport history research, where you can come and just, sit down and look at old photographs.
And genealogy,
Get a good idea of what's in the collection. This is the place to do that, really. And that is, if you have any questions about like an old industry or a relative that lived in Bridgeport or any kind of question, we get everything. Like you've bought something at a flea market and it says made in Bridgeport on the other side.
Oh,
so
really?
We get calls like that up from all over the country. Some of the companies that made things here were very popular elsewhere. Like the International Silver Company was over on the east, and so we have calls about that because they have made beautiful silver-plated things. So what I'm saying is this is the place, because a lot of people are getting very confused by that, because one of the things, since there was no place for like people to sort of join as a membership, a lot of cities have their own historical societies, and Bridgeport doesn't really have a historical society that you could join. So a few years ago, a group of us started something called the Bridgeport Community Historical Society, which is a separate group. Not really only that I work here, but it's a group that meets once a month at the North Branch of the Bridgeport Public Library.
It's very, very popular. There's 200
very
people
popular.
there.
I know.
Can't park your car.
Yeah, I know. It's
anywhere.
gotten, who knew? It got huge. When we started it, we were all like, little kids. We're going to just have this first meeting and we'll see who shows up. Well, the first meeting, I think, 60 to 70 people showed up, and now
See what an interest
it's in
there
an
is.
auditorium in the North Branch the last Monday of every month. It's anybody that's interested in Bridgeport history. We get people from everywhere.
Everywhere.
New Haven, Weston.
Right, they grew up in Bridgeport, though, and their parents did.
And so they have some fond memory of it. It's kind of a show and tell because we have one area where we sort of display
Memorabilia.
old photographs and things. But then every month we have a particular expert on some aspect of Bridgeport history. I try to get a
Plus the walking
We
tours.
do walking tours. We just had Sunday, we had a walking tour of some of the churches